Shanti. Om Shanti. Shanti, Shanti. Bring your mind on the right side. Bring your mind on the left hand, on the right hand. Lift your both the palms, place it in your eyes. Open the eyes inside the palms, know your experiences, bring the hands down. Yes, how do you feel now?
Calm.
Calm, you
I was super itchy.
What is, oh, super, yes, sometime, sometime it happens. So sometime it is the role of the mind and sometime maybe the physical conditions. So you said something in the very beginning, what you said. I don't know. One thing you know that you are not. You are not. What did you say in the very beginning? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm a walking contradiction.
Yes, yes. So at least you know walking contradiction, but you don't know why.
Yes.
Good. So you know something and still you don't know.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So when there is an incomplete knowledge, there is always a suffering. You always suffer mentally, emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
We don't try to know the complete situation, event, thing, relationship, and we impose something that does not exist. It creates a contradiction. Honey, you must love me. Now, what is this? I'm inviting contradiction. Do you see that? No, we don't say
Yeah.
like this, but we, through our attitude, through our thought, we mean it. So sometimes we mean by force, the love cannot be enforced. Same way, the knowledge cannot be enforced. If you are not willing to learn, the knowledge cannot be enforced. So, there lives an incomplete understanding, incomplete knowledge. So, wherever we have an incomplete knowledge in our daily life, there is a walking contradiction or running contradiction, and that causes the problem in my life. I said better to take up the same subject which you ha. It means there may have been many walking contradictions or running contradictions in your life, and you feel you are unable to resolve it. And because of fasting, running contradiction, I don't know, incomplete knowledge, but then you find your mind also says, I'm unable to resolve it. That is another contradiction, and that causes the emotional and the mental challenges in our life. We are understanding it's not a matter of shedding your tears. You have to listen to it clearly and you have to understand it. So, what it means when you understand it, that where is a contradiction in contradiction is always between the two and more than two things. If there is only one thing, there is no contradiction. So we will find out what is the other Second point, that is caused by the incomplete knowledge. If we drop it, our contradiction is gone, our conflict is gone, and we are happy. But provided we want to live a happy life. Do you want to live a happy life?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Positive.
100%?
150%. I actually could see a huge difference in
Good.
when we stopped doing our sessions and when we was.
Oh,
It's really hard to find
very hard to.
happiness and peace
Yes, yes,
without
yes.
your help.
Now, with the help of the knowledge, I am just a, you can say, a catalyst in that. So remember, I know everything about my honey, for example, in a general way, but I keep an eye on him or her causes anxiety, fear, and frustration. I have to keep an eye on myself, my behavior, my attitude, my thought, my feeling. Instead of, oh, she's doing like this, or he's doing like this. So I create a contradiction. It results into incomplete knowledge, and incomplete knowledge, one part is right. No, anyone comes, my relations, oh, let me talk to them. But my mind creates an image, an impression about others that I should not do. That is creating a contradiction, and that will cause you the suffering. Now, if the other is doing the same thing again and again, you are not the boss. You are not the boss. Yes, for kids, until a certain age, we have to keep an eye so that they are disciplined and they don't do any harm to themselves. But as we mature, we have to bring the mental maturity also. If the mental maturity is not there, that is another factor of walking contradictions. So after 20s or 25 or even after 30s, uh, our body has a maturity, so mind should also have a maturity. If your daughter keeps an eye on someone, let it keep, they are learning something. They are not creating contradiction. But if we are obsessed with it, we create contradiction. And that contradiction, I told you, any contradiction has an incomplete knowledge. What is the incomplete knowledge? I know something, but I don't know fully. Do we know peace and happiness? Yes, we know it. Yes, we know, but we do not know. Why we do not know? I do not live in peace and happiness all the time. I know peace and happiness, still I don't know. That is another contradiction. So you create one contradiction, it will create millions of repetitions of contradictions in your life. And then you start suffering. Why am I suffering? Unnecessarily. I told you Eastern wisdom, 10,000 years old tradition. We have 3,000 texts written by 3,000 masters who lived 2,000 years ago. And they wrote, they created, they discovered the principles they used to live in the Himalayas for years, to watching their mind. What happens if I create a contradiction? What happens to my mind? What happens to my thought, my speech and action? So they have been validated. That is why, with that tremendous confidence, I coach people. It is not my principles. So even if you don't want to follow up what to do with this beard guy, I don't believe it. No, you have to believe those 3,000 masters. That is the first step. You believe, so you start the journey. And second point, then you have to prove whether those masters are right or wrong. And the moment you prove, you dissolve your contradictions, you're always happy. So we have to work on our mind. So we know, still we do not know. In Eastern wisdom, we say it is ignorance. Ignorance means that ignorance does not mean illiterate. Have you heard that there is a common sense approach and there is a nonsense approach? There is a common sense approach. We say common sense. And sometimes we say nonsense.
Mm.
So when we are running with a contradiction, there is a two and more than two. Only one thing is true, the rest are false, but my mind claims that this is also true, and that creates a nonsense. And the nonsense creates a contradiction. And it happens in my mind because my perception, I observe the person differently. I create an image, I create a feeling, and then I have a thought. And then I change my face gestures. Then I change my body. And then I enter into anxiety. Then I have a reaction. Contradiction. So you have to, when you listen to it again and again, and find out how many times you create these contradictions in your life every day. Write it down every day and send it to me. Believe me, I'm not going to tell anyone, but I'll help you resolve. So what we say, we know and still we do not know is ignorance. Ignorance is, according to the Eastern wisdom or masters, ignorance means incomplete knowledge. We have a little knowledge. Little knowledge means that only I have this part of the knowledge, the other area is dark. So that is incomplete knowledge. You already heard, little knowledge is very dangerous. First, it kills me, and then it creates a lot of suffering in my life. I know you might be thinking about those thoughts which has created a contradiction. You need not to tell me, but just your mind may be thinking about it. It's okay. I need to bring it out on the surface so that you can remove it. There may be many thoughts, you talked to me earlier, so I can think of it. There may be one such thought, but there may be another thought. It may be with the honey, it may be with the honey mom, it may be with the third person, it may be with the fourth. So I'm just think of it. So little knowledge is dangerous, very dangerous. Why it is dangerous? It puts my mind very down. Mind does not agree with that, it reacts, it enters into fear, frustration, reaction, anger, anxiety. We start crying, we shed our tears. And can you give me three benefits of tears?
It releases toxins in your body.
Okay, very good.
Um,
So, whenever you are in anxiety, when you are angry, you start crying and shed your tears.
yeah.
So, it will release the toxin, not only of the body, but also of the mind. So, you see, again, this is incomplete knowledge.
This is a contradiction.
This is a contradiction. That is why I say, Eastern wisdom says, know it fully. So sometime out of the anger reaction, I'm shedding my tears. It is increasing my toxins in the mind rather than releasing the toxin. You see that while crying, you are settling those negative thoughts in your mind. And once you stop crying, then you say, honey, you told me that is why I'm still angry with you. So you did not release your toxins. Yes, you are understanding that contradiction we have to understand. If we do not understand these toxins, but before that, we will talk about another greater contradictions in our life. But before that, we should also understand the goal of the Eastern wisdom. Eastern wisdom is knowledge, understanding. And by understanding, we change our life, we change our thought, our speech, our action, our expression, our behavior, our attitude. Why we change? Because then the mind undergoes a purity. And when the mental purity is there, then I awaken to my real nature. And that real nature is of the nature of peace, happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. That is the goal of every human being. One wants to achieve that permanent happiness by contradiction, not possible. Then we should understand that. I want to live in happiness and I have a contradictory thought about you, then I cannot coach you. I cannot be relaxed. Do you see that?
Yes.
So then there is a very greater, deeper, subtler contradictions in our life. So the Eastern wisdom aims to solve these deeper contradictions in our life at a very subtler level where our mind seldom goes. And it happened in the life of a woman who approached Buddha. You know, in US it's a Buddha. Buddha, in Sanskrit means old. So actual pronunciation is Buddha. So I will continue to speak Buddha. Buddha the master. So bear with me, my English. So in that, when Buddha was alive, a young woman named Kesa Gautami. She was happily married and had given birth to a beautiful baby boy. And the Kesa loved her son dearly, devoted herself entirely to his care. One day the tragedy struck. Kesa's son fell ill, and despite all the efforts to save him, the child died. Now, see the beginning of a contradiction. Because if someone dies, we start crying. We start thinking, oh, he should have lived little more. How come? How the God is so cruel? Come on, I don't know where I would be born. Even when I was born, I did not know my parents. So I start thinking in terms of contradiction. So this kissa, overcome with grief and unable to accept the loss, can I prevent the death of anyone in the world? Answer is big no. Even when I cannot prevent the death of anyone, I create a contradiction. Oh, he should have lived. She should have lived. Last week I had a dream that my father is still alive and I applied for his immigration and his immigration was approved and he was with me in my house and suddenly I opened my eyes. There was no father. There is no immigration. My father is no more. My mom is also no more. So you see, even in the dream, we create such contradictions. But the dream, when you wake up, the dream washes away. And yeah, this is the fact. Don't go after those. So the Kissa, the women, Kissa cannot, Kissa carried her dead son's body through the streets, desperately seeking someone who could bring him back to life. So, what is the contradiction? There is a birth is destined and the death is destined. See that? You cannot. Even the doctors say, I'm sorry. Now, why you have taken so much of money? No, that's a different thing. In a hospital, they also say. So people looked at her with the pity, thinking she had lost her mind. Finally, the wise old man, directed her to the Buddha, saying that only one person, that Buddha who is awakened, who is a great master, can help you bring your son back to life. So, filled with the hope, Kesa rushed to the Buddha and pleaded, please, great master, bring my son back to the life. Is it not a great contradiction? Buddha is also a human being. I am also a human being. If I take any dead person to an awakened and enlightened, please bring back this to the life. Now we know even the Buddha's body died. He could not save himself. How he can save anyone? Look at the contradictions. You touched upon a beautiful topic for me. Look at it, once we recognize that what is wrong in contradictions, that my son will return to the life. This is a contradiction. It is destined by the nature, no one can prevent. Even at the end of it, the doctor says, I'm sorry, but they squeeze a lot of money. I went to a dentist. She thought that, I don't want to name the, she's also a woman, and she checked everything. And I'm not naming that doctor. So I recognize that she created a false contradiction about myself because the way I talk, she felt that I'm a very rich guy, a millionaire. And then I thought that now there will be a problem. So then she discussed with her assistant and she gave me a treatment plan which cost $22,000, $600. So Internally, I started laughing, and I instantly thought that I will have a second medical opinion before I get it. So I had the second medical opinion first with the second doctor, and he said, you have only two teeth. It needs to be extracted and implanted. It will cost you hardly $1,600 with insurance. The rest is fine. So that happens if I believed I should have been in depression. How to bring $22,000? So it is not, sometimes people create contradictions on your life, and sometimes I create the contradictions in my life. So one part of that contradiction is false. I have to drop that false. So I drop the $22,000. I agree with $1,600. What is that $22,000 in your life? Someone talks to you, you get upset. You react to someone. That is the problem. You start your tears. Save your tears for good. Do you see that? No, I have to think, I have to find out, I have to drop it. Anyhow, the Buddha looked at her with compassion and said to Kissa, I can help you. Because when we are full of contradictions, so we have a lot of memories of anxiety, duality, reaction is present in the mind. So you did the right thing that you returned back. Not many people return back and they don't seek a right advice. So when they don't seek a right advice, so Buddha consoled by saying that I can help you. Not making her son alive, but indirectly he meant. He created another contradiction. Why? Because you are full of contradiction. I start talking to you with a contradiction. So one contradiction resolves another contradiction. So in a couple of sessions, we will talk about ignorance, how to get rid of it. So I can help you. Buddha said, I can help you, Kesa, but first, condition. You must bring me a mustard seed from a house where no one has ever died.
I don't know history about that.
Yeah, that is the history. So that Kissa, the women started knocking every door in that village, and the first question she asked to the members of the family, is there anyone who died? Oh, yes, my uncle, my grandfather. Oh, no, my son recently died. So she cannot take the mustard seed from that house. And she started the journey from the morning, and she got totally tired in the end, house after house. Kissa heard the stories of loss of parents, of children, of siblings, of friends, of husband, of wife, as she listened to these tales of universal suffering. Now you see that. Now she is going to resolve her contradiction. Oh, at least one person has already died in that family. So now your contradictions is resolved by another contradiction. That is the teaching of our great masters. So in the dusk, Kesa returned to the Buddha. Then what? Now she had already, in India, we burn the dead body. We don't put into the coffin. we burn it so that no trace is left. So she burned the body in a cremation ground and she returned. Buddha was looking at her from a distance. Buddha asked gently, "Did you find the mustard seed, Kissa?" Buddha nodded. "I have learned that the death comes to all." So you see that? That is the form of a teaching. No blessed one, no great master. I have learned that the death comes to all. I am not alone in my suffering. I am not alone in my suffering. I am not alone in my suffering. So once you recognize that I'm not alone in my suffering, I can bring an end to the suffering. Are you understanding? So from that day, the Kessa became a follower and a great disciple of the Buddha, and later on, she was known as a great master. First thing to remember. You see how we see that contradiction. Our nature, your nature, my nature, Eric's nature, your daughter's nature, your parents' nature, anyone's nature, or anyone whom you feel that he or she is, or anyone you hate. Every human being has one essential nature, that is the real self. That real self is of the nature of peace, happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. Whether you hate anyone, whether you love anyone, whether you are attached or whether you are detached, including you and me. And that contradiction is put over on the shoulders of the mind. How? By reaction, by anxiety, by duality, by conflict. That is our false I. When we remove that false I, we can bring an end to the suffering and we can start living in peace and happiness. So, my friend, now I have done my job in this session. First thing, daily practice, daily listening. Daily listening and learning. After listening, daily contemplation and reflection. How can I find 5 more contradictions today in my life? Even with my daughter, with my honey, with anyone, with event, with situation. When women told me that now the Christmas is approaching and I'm dying because I have to host a party and I get too much of stress. Don't host a party. Why you are hosting a party? Unnecessary. You are hosting, you are inviting people, you are cooking the food, you are serving the food. You should serve the food with a joy. And if it is not possible by your mind, drop it. What people will say, let the people say anything. Don't do that. So, this contradiction can only be removed when I start thinking about it. That what are the contradictions in my life? Write it down and send to me all that. And then we will meet next week at the same time you are saying or at different time.